my persuasive speech.
You already
Okay. So go. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So growing up, Pop-Tarts were my favorite food. And I would go through the grocery store with my mom, and she would be pushing the cart down like the produce section, and she'd put apples and stuff in the cart. And I would be really angry, and I'd like try and take them out and go get Pop-Tarts and put them in the cart instead. And she'd always say this to me, and this sort of just stuck in my head. She'd always say, "You are what you eat." And I'm sure all of us have heard that before. That's something that your parents have said to you, or your teachers have said to you, or like you heard it in health class, and everyone's like, "You are what you eat," and you see posters. But as I've been awake, I've been thinking about that more in a little bit more of a serious way, and sort of thinking about we care so much as Wake Forest students about what we put our time into. And so I think that it's important to think a little bit more about what we're putting into our bodies and how we're feeling ourselves, and if we really are what we eat. So the problem is, and I'm sure many of you have noticed this, that Wake Forest students don't really have access to local fresh produce. I mean, how many times have you gone into the pit or into the pod and you've seen a basket of half-rotten apples or bananas that are brown? So we just really don't have fresh local produce, and we don't know where it's coming from, the produce that we do have. And the solution would be that Wake Forest should provide their students better access to local farmers markets and serve food locally grown on campus. So, local produce. This is actually a picture from one of Winston-Salem's local farms, Stover Farms, and it's a goat and sheep farm, which is really interesting. And they don't provide just goat and sheep, they also provide a lot of fresh produce. So talking about how Wake could bring in local produce, we need to think about what farms are in the area and what's even available to us. So these are just 3 farms that are local in Winston-Salem, and there are several. There are so many farms in Winston-Salem, but these are just 3. So that's Mabe's Berry Farm, and I've actually been there, and they sell all sorts of local produce and mostly berries though. So strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and it's all grown in season. And then that's Stover Farm again with the sheep and the goats. And then this is Harmony Ridge Farm, and they sell a lot of local produce, a lot of the same things, vegetables, fruits. They have orchards, but then they also sell organic meats. So all of these different farms send their produce to not just grocery stores or restaurants around Winston-Salem, but also to farmers markets in Winston-Salem. And there are over 12 farmers markets in Winston-Salem. And according to the Winston-Salem Area Farmers Markets Guide 2015, the 3 most popular farmers markets are Cobblestone Farmers Market, Renolder Village Farmers Market, and the Dixie Classic Farmers Market, which is actually held on the Dixie Classic Fairgrounds, which is really interesting. So Cobblestone Farmers Market has 3 different locations, and all of these pictures are actually from that farmers market. And as you can tell, they have so many varieties of fresh produce that are all grown locally and are accessible, except for students at Wake Forest don't really know about this. We don't really hear about this fresh produce that's available to us. And the Renolder Village Farmers Market is literally in Renolder Village. It's so close, and on Saturdays we could easily walk there. But there's never been a poster, and we've never seen anything saying you should go to Renolder Village to get this fresh produce that's not available at Wake's campus. So why should we even eat locally? Why does it matter? Why do we need to be eating this local food instead of the food that Wake is serving us, the produce that we're getting at Wake? Other than that, Wake's produce just doesn't look very appealing. So first of all, according to Kathleen Merrigan from the US Department of Agriculture.gov, increasing current concerns about food safety are growing. So a lot of farms use pesticides and herbicides to grow their food, and those are actually really harmful. And also we need to educate the students, and as Wake Forest students, we need to learn about food production and where we're getting our food from, and if it's actually nutritious. So chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. So eating a non-organic apple, this is actually a really interesting quote that I found on the Citable Nature Education website in an article called The Dangers of Pesticides. And it says that eating a non-organic apple, you're also eating over 30 different pesticides that have been sprayed on the apple. So imagine picking up an apple from the pit And as you're eating that, you're eating over 30 different pesticides that have been sprayed on that apple. And we don't know really exactly how many are on the apple or where it came from, but that's sort of the problem. We don't know where those apples are coming from. They're sort of just given to us at the pit, and they could have been in the back of a truck or anywhere. We just don't know. So facts about local food. It's full of flavor. It's always in season. So when you get food from a farmer's market, you're always getting a seasonal food, which means that it has more nutrients. And you're supporting the local economy as well as the environment. And it's just a much safer food supply. And something that's really interesting and exciting about going to a farmer's market is that you can get local food and you know exactly where it's coming from. So the problem is we just don't have access to this food on campus. So what should the solutions be? Well, we can have short and long-term solutions. For short-term solutions, there could be a local produce stand on Wake's campus twice a week. So Wake Forest could bring in food from local farmers markets and have a stand on the upper quad twice a week, and students could come and get this food. Also, Wake should just provide easier access and better advertising for the farmers markets that are available. So we should know about the farmers market in Renolda Village, and there should be posters and different groups and different signs that are telling us where to go and how to get this local food. And long-term, Wake should partner with the local farms to serve food in the campus dining halls and to sell the local produce at the convenience stores like the Pod on campus. So a counter-argument. You could say that providing this local food would be too expensive and that students wouldn't even care or notice the difference between the local apples and the apples that the pit usually sells. But that's actually false, because if we served local grown foods in the cafeteria, students would notice, and more of the students would be willing to get the food from the Pod and buy a dining plan because they know there's going to be fresh produce. And the campus dining would look much more attractive to incoming students. So in a study from the NRI Farm to Institution College Student Survey in 2008, college students were shown that they would pay up to 7% more for locally grown food. So they do really care about having locally grown food. And this is kind of interesting, but Wake needs to do this just to be able to keep up with other schools. Yale, Duke, which is highlighted, American University, Boston University, and Cornell are just some of the schools that have already implemented farm-to-college produce plans where they're bringing in this local produce. So in general, eating fresh local food promotes a healthy lifestyle. And as Wake Forest students, we care so much about what we're doing and where we're putting our time and where our energy is going. We need to be focused on where we're getting our energy and where it's coming from and the food that we're eating and putting into our bodies. And to do this, Wake Forest really does need to partner with local farms to get local produce that's healthier and more nutrient rich for its students. Thank you.